Well, good morning. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. or thereabouts. We're so excited about our next guest. We went early. It's early in Tuesday, and I am back from Dallas, and I'm raring to go. So without further ado, and now, by way of Boca Raton, Florida, he is a principal and partner at Kaplan, Krause and Levine LLC Family Wealth Advisors. He's a former real estate. Well, no, not real estate. He's an estate attorney. He graduated at the University of Miami. He was a member of the 1991 National Championship team and has the ring to prove it. He's a friend. He's a girl dad and loves long walks on the beach. He is Daniel J. Levine. Welcome.
Thank you so much. The only thing that was missing was that Chicago Bulls theme song coming in.
Yeah, no, I don't like the Chicago Bulls.
No, but I like their theme song.
You did.
The Alan Parsons project.
Right. That's over my head.
Well, I'll have to play it for you, and
Thank
then
you.
you'll remember it.
So, good morning. I appreciate you coming in, and tell us a little bit about we all talk about wealth and how building wealth is so important, and most people look at it and say, well, I'm just gonna invest in crypto, and then the next day I'm gonna have all this wealth. And that's how it works, right?
That's exactly how it works. And scratch off lottery tickets. The irony is that we have a friend that consistently wins the scratch off lottery tickets.
Yes.
But yet when we have the big lotto draws, we have him buy the tickets, and it's just not working for us.
No, it is not. It might be luck.
I would think so.
So tell us a little bit about wealth building and how you got involved in it.
Well, I'm more on the side of wealth keeping.
Okay.
Wealth transfer. So I started my career as an estate planner where, that is, taking your money, keeping it safe, asset protecting it, and then getting it to the family members or friends or heirs that you want to. And I was working at one of the New York firms, and I soon realized that while I was doing this, I was killing myself, and the insurance people were coming in. I was handing them the cases on the silver platter, and they were making what I was and working half the hours. And I said, well, if I take my attorney background and my my hard work and do what they do, I can be a star. So 22 years ago, I hung a shingle. So what I do is my job is to protect your wealth transfer, wealth protection. So there are some ways that we use some of our products to build wealth, but most of it is more just vanilla, safe, keeping the wealth to the people you want and out of the government's hands legally.
So protecting your wealth, maybe, so many people look at, the growth and the building of wealth and don't look at conservatively, protecting that wealth, because a lot of times, you get a big paycheck or you get a bonus or whatever, and you go out and you spend everything that you had, and you forget to protect what's in your account. Tell us a little bit about some strategies that you use, to protect that wealth.
Well, some of the things that we use are some life insurance product where you can put money in them and they conservatively grow and they're not related to the market. They're also asset protected. Sometimes we use a bad word, an annuity, where it kind of does the same thing. You put money in and it just kind of sits there and grows conservatively. And again, some of the other products we have for keeping wealth are things like long-term care insurance. So when you need to when you're older and have someone come to your house and take care of you, that's paid for. I mean, at this point in time, sometimes that's $10,000 a month that's out of your pocket. And if you have something where you've paid for it earlier and pennies on the dollar, it makes it a good way to keep the money that you have going to your kids, as opposed to going to someone else.
In today's society, we want instant gratification, and we don't look, in the future, right? We constantly say, well, I don't need long-term care. I don't need, life insurance because, when I'm dead, I don't really care.
Well, that's true. I mean, we definitely live in the generation now where people would rather buy the scratch-off lottery ticket, to use that analogy, as opposed to waiting 2 days for the billion-dollar lotto. But yeah, you have to think ahead. I mean, there's this whole "it can't happen to me" attitude that a lot of people have today. And, you see it. I mean, unfortunately, you'll see something on some of the social media where it says, GoFundMe, so-and-so died, or so-and-so got really sick. And unfortunately, that brings in a pittance of what they really need. When if they had planned ahead, disability insurance, where if you can't work, it pays you, or long-term care or life insurance, yeah, it makes a difference.
It does. When you're looking at all these different options, and it's kind of like when you say life insurance, right? People won't run, right? They're like, "Hey, I'm out." It's like saying, "Hey, I'm a realtor," and they all run. It's
Well,
like
right. Well, both of our businesses have something interesting where we're both dealing with people's very large assets, a house, a life insurance policy, the death benefit, very large. And yet the barrier to entry to our business is very low. It's not a lot. I mean, to cut hair in this state, you need to do all these apprentice hours. To do what we do, you just pass a test that's in a short class. So that's what we do, that that we're experts, me and you, in our industries. We differentiate ourselves in many ways. So while there are a lot of people that do what we do, they can't do what we do. They say they can, but they can't. And that's why one of the reasons I refer my clients to you is, you know what you're doing, and you've been in this business for a long time, and you treat the clients like gold. And again, that's really important. And that's one of the things that I try to impress upon people I meet that want to use me, is they're going to get that gold standard.
Yeah, I mean, information, experience, and then advocacy. People don't realize, especially when you're dealing with assets, is that you know you need someone who has been through a lot of issues, right? I mean, because we don't need anyone if someone wants to, buy a house, sees the house, doesn't, already knows about the house, you know, like, and it goes really, really smooth and there's no obstacles. Like, you don't need a realtor for that. Just like you don't, if you buy a life insurance policy and the life insurance policy is fine and you live to 110, you don't need anyone for that. But what you do need, you need someone who's, that when there are issues, when there are things that need to be navigated and obstacles overcome, you need that person to be there for you to understand how to solve that problem.
Right. You need an advocate. I mean, like I said, if somebody wants to go out and buy life insurance and they're 30 years old and they run marathons and want to buy a small term policy, you know what? Go online and do that. And that's okay. But when you're older and you're a little overweight and you have some medical
Hey,
issues,
hey, hey, I resemble that remark.
Well, not a couple months ago when we had our diet contest.
Yeah, well, that was a couple months ago.
Yeah. The needle has moved for both of us. But yes, I mean, that's it. You need an advocate. You need someone, to use another cliche, who's not their first rodeo.
Sure.
We could say that if this goes to Davy.
Rodeos are nice. They're fun. So, who needs a life insurance policy?
It depends. If it depends what kind of policy you want and what your goals are. So everyone who's either in a relationship where they have someone they depend on, or someone depends on them financially, they need a term policy. If something happens to them, and they need to have that financial stability. If you're married, you need that. If those are the easy ones. If you have enough money where you're going to be above the estate tax exemption, meaning the government says you can pass a certain amount of money right now to your heirs without an estate tax, and everything above that is 40% taxed, you really need to plan, and life insurance is a great way to do that. So right now, that number, it sounds ridiculous. A person can pass about $12 million, a married couple about 24, a little under that. That number is going to 6. So if somebody has right now, a married couple has $10 million, and they might want to plan, because if they die with 20 million, there's going to be a tax of 40% of 8 million. And if you have most of your assets in businesses or things that are not liquid, the IRS, they don't want your house, they don't want your art, they don't want your car, they want cash. So you have to have the cash ability to pay that. So what we can do is buy like a life insurance and own it out of your estate in something called a life insurance trust. And when you're no longer around, the insurance pays out, and your heirs can use that money to pay the tax. It's a great story, a sad story. So using the football analogy, Joe Robbie was the owner of the Dolphins, and it's ironic because he was a state lawyer. And when he died, the Dolphins were worth about 40 million, and he sold the team. His kids had to sell the team to pay the estate tax. So fast forward to now, the Dolphins are worth $3 billion according to Forbes. If Joe Robbie had bought some insurance, he could have actually, his kids could have paid the tax, kept the team, and we maybe still have Joe Robbie Stadium instead of Hard Rock Stadium. So,
Wow.
I mean, that's one of the stories. I mean, you hear stories like that. Elvis had a estate of 10 million, and the taxes, after taxes, his kids got about 3 million. So, you got a plan. I team up a lot of times with current estate attorneys and make sure that the plan's in place. But for people that aren't above that exemption, I mean, again, who needs insurance? Any married couple, God forbid something happens to one of the parents, even if, you have a wife at home that's not really working and taking care of the kids, if something happens to her, and the husband has to work, where's he going to get all the money to pay for the care and pay for the kids and the nannies and things like that? So, again, that's not an expensive proposition. And
Right.
it's a lot, better than a GoFundMe.
I agree. And when you look at all these GoFundMe's, it's really sad because a lot of these stories are really, really, sad. And I also didn't know that about Joe Robbie, but when you're looking at, protecting your wealth, like you said in the very beginning, it's important to, kind of have some foresight, not always, live on the seat of your pants, so to speak.
Right. And again, it's not a huge proposition to take over. I mean, again, when you sell a house, you usually recommend people get homeowners insurance.
Right.
Well, they need it if they have a mortgage, but
Right.
That is, very similar in the sense that, you never really want to have to use it, but you need it.
Right. Agreed. So let's talk about more fun things than life insurance and protecting wealth and
Yeah, let's talk about taxes and death.
Taxes and death is perfect. So for those people that obviously are not in the bracket of net worth of 6 million or more, what do you suggest for them?
Well, again, if you're a single person and you are not married and have no one that depends on you, you don't really need life insurance.
Mhm.
Then I'd say, maybe you need some kind of long-term care insurance, which is the insurance that pays when you're older and you need someone to come take care of you. You need to go to assisted living. Not everyone needs insurance. That's kind of, it depends on each person. So that's one thing to look at. And again, like I also deal with, business owners who, you have two business owners that are partners. And if something happens to one of them, what happens to the business? How does it continue? What happens to the shares? So if me and you are business partners and something happens to you, me and Samantha are now business partners.
Right.
So we have something called the buy
Sorry.
sell. I like her better than you. Wait a minute. We have something called a buy sell. So, that kind of, we use a term policy or a permanent policy. And, I own insurance on you and you own insurance on me. And if something happens to one of us, we use that money to buy out the husband or wife and buy the shares, and the business continues. So that's a little more exciting. It's still
Right.
dealing with death.
Right.
I like it.
So how do you deal with, and like you said, our businesses, although they're not aligned together, they are very similar. How do you deal with the negative connotation of like when someone says disability insurance or long-term care insurance? Oh, he's just trying to sell me an insurance policy. Oh, he's just trying to sell me a house, right? Same kind of thing, right? How do you deal with some of that? Because, I think that most customers and consumers are just uneducated, right? They don't understand. And unfortunately, the people that are solicitous are continuing cold calling and texting and emailing have made it a lot more difficult for you and I.
That is absolutely 100% accurate, that there are people out there that, that ruin it, that aren't good team players. And again, it's about educating people. And if it makes sense, people will realize that. One of the things I deal with my clients is I try to educate them and say, listen, here is what you're getting and why, and here's how it works, and really break it down so they understand it. A lot of times I say to people, do you have life insurance? And they say, yeah. I say, what company is it with? They have no idea. What kind of policy is it with? I say, I don't know. So again, you have a lot of people that just need to be educated. And again, insurance is oversold. I can't say houses are oversold. Everyone needs a house.
Right.
Um,
Realtors are oversold.
it's very,
Or they oversell.
Well, I guess when you move to Florida, you got to get your, your Florida driver's license, register to vote, and get your realtor's license.
Absolutely. There's more realtors than probably drivers. Just kidding. But, it's, I guess you need a plan, right? And that's the big thing. How do you start? Like consumers that are listening now, people that are listening now, they're afraid to talk about their finances, right? It's like they want to put blinders on and they want to run through, the forest, right? But you really need to have a plan. How do you start?
It's a really, really tough question. And with everyone, it's different because people come in and they all have the different ideas. So the way I start is I just ask questions and I listen. Again, that God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. And when people come in or I speak to people, I ask them, I ask them just general questions, tell me about your family, tell me about your goals. And from there, we can determine what they need. And again, it's not that complicated. And I also bring in experts. I'll bring in a financial advisor to do investments. I'll bring in, an estate attorney. I'll bring in a CPA. So it's a team effort. It's just like with you, you need to have someone that comes in. You may need a closing attorney. You may need a mortgage person. And you have those people that are your teammates. And, you all work together. And over time, it becomes very simple. Everyone does their job.
Right. Um, who should they contact?
Me.
Yeah, perfect. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can either email me,
Mhm.
and my email is dlevine at KKL Advisors. And they could look on my website at KKL Advisors, or they could find me on social media or talk to you and you'll pass them on to me. Hey, Dave.
100%. You know, you need an advocate, right? You need someone that's a resource that to help you through the process. And you can't just keep blinders on with, in regards to finances and such. And, you know, you need a plan.
Yes, and a lot of people, like you said, they don't want to deal with it because they don't have as much money as they thought they would. Life didn't come out as they want. They're divorced. And you know what? It's okay.
Right.
You know, it's okay. And when we advocate for people, listen, you take what you have and you make the most of it. And again, you have to plan now. You want to be a little bit younger and healthier when you're doing your insurance, because many people come to me and they're uninsurable because they're older and or just they've aged out of long-term care. So you have to really kind of put the big boy or big girl pants on and just face it and deal with it.
Right. So, you know, dealing with finances, and you said, putting together a team with, financial planners and those kind of things. So if they call you and reach out to you regarding, hey, I need help. I need finances. I need and I don't have $1 million. I don't have even a couple 100,000, but I'm trying to protect what I have, whatever that number may be.
Absolutely. So not everyone needs everything.
Right.
So, I will, listen and see what people need and help them. And it may be that they just need a simple term policy, or maybe they just need to go to some kind of, small online brokerage, maybe a Schwab or a Fidelity or something like that, because they don't need, a broker, at a wirehouse or an RIA. So it depends what everyone needs, but you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
And you never know. And you just, as I said, they'll come in, and if you sell them what they need, and I hate the word sell them, you
Right.
provide them what they need, and they go. And again, you don't need to have millions of dollars to have the needs for insurance. But then again, if you don't have millions of dollars, you don't need millions of dollars of insurance. It fits in.
Right. So, you have any stories for us about the 1991 championship team?
Uh, well, I always wanted to write a book, and that would be the end of my relationship. But it was a very interesting time because we had characters on that team. We had The Rock was on that team,
Mhm.
and he was an interesting guy. He was actually kind of quiet in college. We had Warren Sapp, who was the loudest and still is the loudest human being. And then we had a whole bunch of guys that all went to the NFL. You had Gino Toretto, who won the Heisman. You had Darren Smith and Jesse Armstead and Michael Barrow. They all played 13 years. And, Leon Searcy at one point was like the highest paid lineman in the NFL. So, it was just interesting being in a locker room with, all those characters. And, you had some crazy coaches, Coach Ogeron with his, that Cajun voice that he has was,
So he came from the U?
He was at the U. I'll give you a quick story.
Yeah.
So Warren Sapp comes into the University of Miami as a tight end, and he gained a little bit of weight, let's just say, his freshman year. And he was living with Rohan Marley, Bob Marley's kid, and the freshman year he didn't play much, and he gained a lot of weight. So they didn't know what to do with him. So they eventually moved him to offensive line, and that didn't work out so well. So 3 days later, Coach Ogeron, remember, he was the guy who, in the blind side, he was the coach of Ole Miss, and before that, he was at USC. So Ogeron was our defensive line coach, and Ogeron had that big Cajun voice, kind of like Bobby Boucher. And he said, let me have him. I'll take him. So about a week later, Warren Sapp comes out, and he's killing people on the defensive line. And who does he beat out? The Rock.
Oh, that's funny.
So then Ogeron ends up leaving the University of Miami, and he ends up going to USC, and he was the defensive line coach when they won the championship, and then took over for Pete Carroll. Then they didn't hire him. He went to Ole Miss, and then he went to LSU, won the championship there. Didn't work out for him, and he told the story where, they said it's not going to work out for you, and you have a $17.1 million buyout. And Ogeron said, "Well, where's the door? I'm going to leave right now." And he did, and it's ironic because Ogeron's kid now is coaching at the U. Warren Sapp is back at the U volunteering at times, and they're both there. So that's kind of the weird Miami. You get all these people from the '80s that all were famous people. It's kind of cool.
It's very cool. So, I just find it fascinating because, University of Miami, I grew up being a University of Miami fan before I went to Alabama, and still was a still am a UM fan. And it's, amazing hearing those stories and seeing some of the people coming in, they look a little older, than they were as we watched them on TV, but it's still good.
I think they're in for good things. Mario Cristobal is a teammate of mine, and he's a very intense human being, and he's a very hard worker. And I think the U will be back.
I mean, when was the last time you saw him put up 70 points? It's been a while.
Well, the last time we played a Division II team, but
yeah, but still, I mean, listen, it's still 70 points.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but it's good stuff.
It is.
So, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on, but I always end the conversation on 2 questions. One is, what's your favorite all-time streaming series or movie, and what are you currently watching?
Well, as a Jersey guy, I got to go with The Sopranos.
Yeah.
What am I currently watching? I'm in the middle of a bunch of things. I'm catching up because I never finished Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
But I do watch a lot of the Netflix things. Like I saw that Manti Te'o.
Oh, that was really
documentary,
good.
the 2 hours about where he was catfished.
Boy, he got screwed.
Oh, terrible. I mean, it really, and he was like one of the first people before catfishing became like.
I never even heard that until it was, and if we talk about that time, frame, we all, like, I remember how I felt because they had a 92 championship alumni thing at Blue Martini, and that I went to, and I remember that whole story, and I'm like, how could anyone be so stupid? How could you do that? Like, but you know what? Like, it was not even a thing. Like, you couldn't even fathom it.
And the person that was catfishing him, they were amazing at what they did. They went out of their way to contact family and friends, and it was really interesting. And it's social media then wasn't as big as it is now, so like you didn't have as much access to check up on things, and it was just amazing. And what an amazing guy that guy is for persevering and making it, and now coming out and telling his story.
So
that's a great watch, and it's only 2 shows.
No, I agree, and I hopefully they will he'll get on a team. I know I think he's a free agent.
I think he's kind of retired, but who knows?
He's 31 years old. I mean, who knows?
Oh, that's old now.
Yeah.
So what are you watching, and what's your favorite streaming series?
So I'll go with what I'm watching now, the House of Dragons, which is the prequel of Game of Thrones. Um, wow, it's been I haven't seen the most recent episode. That's been amazing though. There's also another one that, because I like sick and twisted shows. I Am a Killer. It like goes through the cases of people on death row. Um, my favorite all-time series, um, just from the writing and that perspective, I probably would say Game of Thrones because it kept you like you can't watch like 4 or 5 episodes in a row. I don't believe like you 2 episodes is probably the max at a night because you were so it's so intense. So it's not necessarily easy watching, but I thought it was really really well done, especially that Red Wedding episode. What season are you on?
5th.
Oh, okay, so you saw
Yeah.
it. Yeah, the Red Wedding episode to me was that's what hooked me. And the one thing I can't get through now is Peaky Blinders. I have like 5 episodes left, and it got a little yeah, weird.
Tiresome.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. How do we find you again?
Uh,
Mr. Dan Levine.
Yes, at D Levine at KKL Advisors, or my website at kkladvisors.com, and that's KKL Kaplan Krause Levine. You can also reach out to David Searle. He always knows where to find me.
I do. You can always reach out, message me. I'm, listen, I think we all need plans, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing some insight. We need an advocate and a resource, and it doesn't mean that you have to be this multimillionaire. But if you're a small business owner, or you have a little bit of money that you want to protect, definitely reach out to Mr. Levine. So
I appreciate you being here. Thank you
of
so
course.
much.
No, thanks for coming on. Listen, Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. We actually will be on Pod Palooza on September 22nd. September 22nd, around 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8 over at the Beer Garden in Royal Palm Place. We have a special guest who apparently is going to interview me. The Greek. The Greek's coming on to
Oh, I
interview
love it.
me in front of a live audience. And honestly, we have no idea what he's going to say because he's a little bit of yeah, a little bit of that. So thank you very much. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.